Hey guys, it's been a while. I haven't really been making much content other than covers and music lately. And to that I want to say that I do apologize, and this video is meant to kind of remedy this. So I figured I'd come back with this and make it a full analysis video. It's an analysis on a game I'm sure many of you are aware of at this point. If you were around during the 2014 to 2018, indie game craze, then you would know that there was a lot of games that came out around this time that were all horror games, indie horror games, and it's pretty much made its own substantial subgenre from it. And with that, I want to address one in particular that, if you know me and you've been on the channel for a while, you know it's my favorite indie horror game. Hello Neighbor. Hello Neighbor is, in my opinion, one of my favorite games to play. Not because it's nice to make fun of, or, not because it's just there to play, and it's just kind of a thing that you want to play when you get bored, but rather because it's a game that I just genuinely believe is really, really good in its own right. And I genuinely want to tell you what I think of Hello Neighbor as a whole, starting from the original alphas all the way up to the most recent thing that we've gotten from them, that being a Hello Neighbor 3 alpha. So, without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with Hello Neighbor pre-alpha. This is a simple version of the game. A very simple, very straightforward version of the game. The pre-alpha doesn't have a lot to offer when it comes to content. It's just a simple, straight shot to the basement. There's really nothing else that you can do. Alpha 1 takes a lot of inspiration from that, pretty much the same damn build, but it adds more to it. And, the basement this time around in Alpha 1, you can't really do much about it. You open it up, the neighbor closes it, and then he throws you in a grave. He buries you alive. And then you come across Alpha 2, one of the more complete versions of these alphas to date. Not a lot of glitches, not a lot of things to look out for. It's just Hello Neighbor in its purest form. It's a small house where you have to solve puzzles on the inside and outside in order to see what's in the basement. Once you get to the basement, you end up seeing, a whole room that looks like it was made for a seance of some sort. And you see a door, you try to go to it, but it just redirects you to the website, or it just gives you the website link, which is honestly not a terrible ending, but I wish they could have expanded upon that a bit further. Going into ghost mode and going past that loading zone actually gets you past that door, and it's just a bunch of branching pathways and different stuff like that. It kind of just ends off after a certain point, though, because it's not like the neighbors there chasing you or anything like that, so you have all the time in the world to explore. This goes on for a while, too, so you have a lot to explore, a lot of different things that you can do, but at the end of the day, it's just... It's literally just walking around, essentially. Alpha 3 is where things start to go a little bit downhill from there. Now, keep in mind, I am not one of those people that are always like, oh my goodness, the alphas are so much better than the final game, because... let's be honest with ourselves, they kind of weren't at the same time. Sure, pre-alpha, Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 were pretty good, and Alpha 3 is a bit less desirable. Alpha 4, they just kind of fucking gave up and said, you know what, we're going to use this, why not? But Alpha 3 in particular is difficult because of the fact that it entirely takes place at night. You cannot see anything if you have your graphic settings all the way up. If you have them all the way down, it's easy enough to see in the darkness, I suppose, but that's because you have to have your eyes get adjusted to the darkness around you. It's not pitch black, but it's not necessarily the most dim light either. Basically, with this one, you have an entire, huge, fucking house to explore. Think back to, the Alpha 1 house, but make it a bit more zany, if that makes any sense. When it comes down to it, Hello Neighbor is genuinely a really great game, but when it comes to the alphas, they were just trying to find their footing. They found it, but then they stumbled a little bit. Honestly speaking, this kind of reminds me of a thing that I came up with one time where, the phrase, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Well, if it is broken and you try to fix it and you're just right there, don't do anything further with it, because you have it to the point where if you do anything further with it, it's going to end up breaking on its own anyways. But if you just leave it as it is, it's going to work for a time until somebody else comes along and breaks it. That's what I'm trying to get at here. And with Alpha 3, the basement for this one is just a neighbor crying in a corner. There are 2 different doors you can go to. The one directly behind you just leads to like half a QR code for some reason. I don't know if anyone has figured this out, and honestly I'm too lazy to look it up and really care right now. But the other doorway introduces a new piece of lore that we have not seen in Hello Neighbor history. A shadow figure with a really messed up looking head. I mean, we've seen shadow figures before, but this was more or less from our character, not necessarily as a piece of lore. But now that we have this, what else can we exactly do with it? Well, Alpha 4 comes around, and it tries to expand upon that a little bit more. We get the mini-games that are in the final game. We get to a certain point where everything's just kind of ridiculous. Every room in the house is pretty much used for something at this point. And if it's not used, it's just a bunch of textures and stuff like that. Not a lot of lore implications are there just yet, but at some point it's gonna, it's gonna be a thing. And they make more emphasis on this shadow creature, where now he has big, bulging white eyes, like holy shit, like just pure circles of light coming from those eyes. It's like just 2 flashlights like right next to each other. It's really nice to see. I kind of like the design of the Shadow Man, actually, in the alpha stuff, and even in the final game, but I'm getting ahead of myself here. The basement for this one is actually just a really neat section where you have to use all of the skills that you've garnered up to this point thanks to the minigames, including double jump, sneak, and attack. Basically speaking, you're kind of put through a gauntlet. And at the very end of it, you don't really get much of anything. You only get this ending cutscene here where you walk outside of your apartment building because you just dreamed the whole thing up, I guess. But then you get to the final game, and it's like, were they trying to enforce the story a bit too hard here? Because, I'm going to be honest with you, there really wasn't much of a story for Hello Neighbor to begin with, and I kind of preferred it that way. Hello Neighbor was a game about sneaking into your neighbor's basement and trying to figure out what kind of secrets he has. And in the final game, it's more like you hear screaming, you try to go to the basement, you get kidnapped, and then you find out that the neighbor built a giant-ass house already. It's like, okay, well, now we're just getting ahead of ourselves here. Not to mention, right, like, you get out of there, and then you find out that you just had a bad dream about the traumatic stuff that you experienced. In the Hello Neighbor animated series, they tried animating what Act 2 would have looked like, and it looks substantially less, big than it does in the full game. And my theory behind that is because the big house thing was just an amplified, traumatic dream. The actual thing of which it worked out wasn't that. It was just a bunch of signs, maybe a bigger fence, perhaps, maybe a few stories added on, but nothing like fucking the Empire State Building at the age of 12. And essentially what happens is you just kind of end up getting out of there. Act 3 comes along, you're an adult living in a high-rise apartment, and then you get evicted. Why'd you get evicted? I don't know. The English is too broken to even read. So, what happens next is you end up moving back into Raven Brooks, because I assume you just have the deed for the house you used to live in. I don't really know. At this point, we're 6 games in, and I'm starting to get a little bit tired talking about it, but I have to keep going with this anyways, because I enjoy talking about it. It's just tiring me out a little bit. So then you go to Act 3, you notice the Shadow Man across the street, you go to bed on your couch, and then you wake up. Your house is fully refurbished, including all of its original furniture and everything, except for the FGTV poster that you saw in Act 1. That's been replaced with a family photo of the people from the wet floor signs. And then you look across the street, and it's just the fucking neighbor working on his house. The same one from Alpha 4, which is very funny to me because this is just a refurbished Alpha 4 house. What happens next? You go through an entire set of things again, just like in Alpha 4, except now there's more rooms to explore and there's more secrets to uncover, like the 8-bit ninja fucking Chinese takeout container and Captain Salsa. Yeah, this game had a really big issue with featuring a ton of their biggest contributors with advertising this game, essentially. I mean, there is one that I really liked a lot, actually. There was the JT Music Disc all the way out of bounds, which you can get to by going through a specific patch of wall that's mistextured, I'm pretty sure on purpose. And then you end up going through it, and then you end up going through one of these Unreal Engine missing script things. I've got to talk about these now, I suppose. These are supposed to give off some sort of lore implication, I guess, because these were left in for so long without a proper patch for it, I guess. The first one leads to jack shit. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It just leads to jack shit. Nobody knows what this is about. I couldn't figure it out. Nobody else can figure it out. So I guess it's just there for the sake of being there. And then you have the second one in Act 3. Well, technically the first one in Act 3, but it's the second one we've seen so far. Basically, this one leads to nothing except for another QR code, which, if you play on PC, you're able to pull off this thing where, like, you get to go to, like, the fucking negative world or some shit. But if you're on console, you're shit out of luck because you can't really do shit on console. You really can't. It's all PC-oriented. This game was meant for PC, not for fucking console. Although that kind of contradicts what the controls say at the beginning of Alpha 2. Because those had Xbox controls on them. I guess. And then you reach the fucking basement. Basically, the basement in this one is similar to that of the one in Act 1, except it's all, like, tilted, and it's, like, darker, it's supposed to be, like, scarier. But then you meet the Shadow Man, who just kind of walks past you. If you have the power-up to sneak, you could just crouch right in front of him and, like, nothing happens. But if you do so much as uncrouch when you think he's gone, he will just appear right in front of you and he will grab your nipples and he will rip them off your body with such force and such fucking hatred that you'd think that a gorilla that just escaped the enclosure and is mad right now is coming to fucking kill you and rip off your skin like Pyramid Head did in fucking Silent Hill. The first movie where he actually skinned a woman alive. Yeah, that actually happened, by the way. If you don't believe me, look it up. And then you get to the door that you actually went to when you were a kid, but now the neighbor is there to stop you. What do? You push him out of the way and you lock the door. A lock that wasn't even on the original fucking door in the first place. You mean to tell me that there's just a lock there now? I mean, to be fair, at the end of the game, it is revealed that Act 3 was just nothing but a dream, so I suppose it's just your brain giving you an out, I suppose. The second to final boss is a giant neighbor that has a house on its back. Once you get up to that house on its back, you end up going through a bunch of lore-related stuff, a lot of which actually makes perfect sense in a visual standpoint. Somebody died, there's a thing in the basement, the neighbor's crying because all of his paper got blown away, and the Shadow Man is there to just stare at him instead of helping because he's a dick. You then go through the door and you see yourself as a child. That's a very, very disorienting thing. If I saw myself as a child, I think I'd probably hit myself because I was a really fucking stupid child. Eventually you find out that there's a giant Shadow Man here to destroy you, or, younger you. What happens is an entire game of shield the child from the giant monstrosity, as then you finally get up to the size of the Shadow Man, and then you beat the fuck out of him, apparently. Or maybe you don't, because this guy just explodes. But then you go over to this house over here, and you just see him on the other side with the neighbor just in the doorway. And, the neighbor's expecting you to, do something about it, but you can't, because there's nothing to break the window with, and even if you wanted to save him, you couldn't anyways. The Shadow Man is just swiping his hair back, I suppose, because I don't know what else this is supposed to imply. You go through a door, you wake up, and then you're kind of like, oh, hey, that was all a dream. My trauma's dealt with now. I don't have to deal with it anymore. It's gone. And then we get to Hello Guest. Hello Guest is a beta for Hello Neighbor 2 that was made a while ago before the game was even initially released. My thing with this game is that it's a pretty decent, simulator of sorts. Some sort of, amusement park manager kind of simulator, because you gotta keep on, kicking ruffians out of the old park, you gotta make things work, you gotta do stuff. But then eventually, at the end of the game, it doesn't even fucking matter anyways, because the whole park just destroys itself. you have to deal with this thing, the guest. He's a little bird creature thing. He just kind of walks around, makes weird little noises, and if he catches you, he catches you. That's that. There's nothing else to it. And then the very first official Hello Neighbor 2 alpha released. Actually, there was Alpha 1, the Halloween update, and then Alpha 1.5, which is really funny now that I think about it. Because, yeah, this is Hello Neighbor 2. It has the house. It has the places. The only difference I see with this one is that the neighbor doesn't actually show up for a good majority of this game. In fact, it's just the bird person, or the guest, if you want to call him that. The bird person just kind of appears and takes over his house. The neighbor's nowhere to be found until, like, the very end of the game, where there's actually 2 different ways you can get him here. In the Halloween update, or 1.5, you can actually get him behind this door right here. He's just kind of trapped in there, and he tries to break out, but then he just walks away like nothing happens, which I think is really funny to me. And then the second one, or sorry, not the first one, it's not really that noteworthy, but you get up to the attic. Yes, I know, so original. Instead of going to the basement, we're going to the attic. My question is, where the fuck was the attic in the first game? There is no fucking attic. There's not. You mean to tell me they used the same house from Act 1, but you're going to change the geometry of it? Just like that? And what makes it worse is that there's no attic in the actual release either. It's just the basement again, but the basement also changed geometry. What the fuck? I have a lot to say about this later, but right now I need to get back to talking about this particular thing right here. So, you go to the attic, you pick up a couple of things, and then you go back to the entrance of the attic, only to find the neighbor standing there, just looking up. Not really doing anything. Not moving, not anything. He's just standing there looking at you. And then the game ends. Now, eventually, the full release of Hello Neighbor 2 did make its way to digital stores and physical storefronts. My thing with this game is I really don't care about the whole, going into different people's houses and solving puzzles and getting things for this museum thing that Mr. Neighbor apparently owns. My thing is that they used the house from Act 1, but everything about it is nearly changed. I mean, for starters, when you walk in, sure, it looks the same from a standpoint of comparing it to the first house, but then you realize that there's a staircase right at the end of the fucking hall, which, okay, whatever, there's also a staircase there as well, but that's not where it was located at. That room where you got the fucking wrench from, yeah, that's not there either. It's just gone, too. And the room where you went into the neighbor's room and it kind of it was at the end of the hall, no, there's 2 doors for that now, and the room isn't even in one of them. The entire fucking room is his room. The entire thing. You then go to the living room and, okay, this looks pretty interesting. It's similar in regards, but, because of the stylized difference, it makes it look different. And then you go to the kitchen. The kitchen is now one giant room. And the bathroom is nowhere to be seen here. There's a bathroom right behind that kitchen, neighbor. Where did you put it? Did you shove it up your ass? Because apparently a lot of stuff from this game is being pulled out of an ass. It's an ass pull, essentially. And then you go upstairs and, oh my god, they fucking changed everything, didn't they? They changed everything. There's supposed to be a giant room up there with 2 different rooms right next to it. The kids' room, what looks to be a smaller play area, and then a bigger play area, right? Like the game entails, but no, it doesn't. It changes the geometry of the house so fucking much. I actually got confused trying to play through this my first time, and I get it. It's a new game. It's supposed to be different. But when you put a house that everybody knows like the back of their hand on your video game, you kind of have to keep it the same. Otherwise, people are going to start getting confused, and they're going to get pissed. Like I am. But whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I gotta stop. I gotta take a drink. So the end of the game comes by after Nick, cut that out. So So the end of the game comes by after gathering everything that you need from the museum in order to defeat Mr. Neighbor at his own game. Also, yes, I know his name is Mr. Peterson, Theodore Masters Peterson. I read the books. I've seen the animated show. Fuck you. I'm calling him the Neighbor because I think it's funny. But anyways, you get all the stuff you need to defeat the Mr. Neighbor guy in his own museum, which he just owns and lives in for some reason. I guess it's because his house is being fucking investigated by the police. And then you need to save his son, Aaron, from his evil clutches. At the end of the game, you crush him using a giant raven, but for some reason, the neighbor, his son, he just kind of goes back to him, and then he hugs him. And then you get knocked out by a random shadow figure, which looks strikingly similar to the way that the player looked at the very beginning of the game's development. Like, that's literally what his shadow looks like. That's what his character looks like. It's just that as a whole. That implies something here that I'm not sure I want to get involved with. You mean to tell me that the very first model for the player in the Hello Neighbor series could potentially have some sort of like significant like standing on the story? I mean, that's great and all. It's a great way to, have a callback there without ruining continuity. But this implies that he's just kind of been there since the very beginning and has seen everything that's ever happened ever. It's like Joseph Joestar at the end of Part 6. He's the only surviving member of an entirely different universe and has to see everything change before his very eyes, which I think is really funny, now that I think about that. It's sad, but it's funny. Recently, we've been getting a bunch of different alphas and different development diaries from TinyBuild for Hello Neighbor 3. I think Hello Neighbor 3 looks pretty decent so far. Of course, it's alphas, so it's nothing to really look forward to. It's nothing to scoff at. But, I kind of don't really like the way they designed the neighbor in this game. I mean, Hello Neighbor 2, they just kind of made him skinnier. In this one, they made him a fucking eldritch deity. I genuinely think that Hello Neighbor as a whole is really good, but the way they did him in this game is just odd. The first game, he looked uncanny. He looked like a human that you would expect to see in your dreams, not necessarily, fully proportionate as a human should be, but humanoid enough. Hello Neighbor 2 comes out, and he just looks like a regular-ass dude. Weirdly shapen head, but nothing to really be too afraid by. Hello Neighbor 3 Neighbor makes me want to fucking piss my pants. If I saw this thing coming at me in a dark alleyway using his shovel as a cane, probably with the intent to hit me with said shovel, I think I'd probably curl into the fetal position and cry like a little bitch. But I digress. There really is nothing to go off of here for Hello Neighbor 3, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip over to the smaller Hello Neighbor games. Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek was a game that was made as a prequel to Hello Neighbor, despite the fact that during this time there were also several prequel books that were coming out of the works. Which, I guess, if you think about it, that makes more lore, but I really don't care. I've already read the books. I don't want to go back and research any of this. I am too lazy to do this at this point. I'm already filming this on a still screen. No camera work necessary. I am editing everything myself. This video is probably going to be one of my longest to date, other than, streaming videos. I don't want to fucking talk about this anymore. But I have to, because if I don't, then I won't be making content anymore. That was more or less a lie. I'll still be making content, but I felt really bad that I haven't gotten to make any actual good content in a while. I feel bad that all I've had to offer in terms of content is just covers and music and, the small little shorts post here or there. And the fact that all of my content that's doing good right now comes directly from TikTok, of all things. Because I just don't really have much of a time frame to work on all this stuff. It's really saddening to me. It really is. And before you ask, why did you cut this out? It's a vent thing. I don't want to sit here and just take a look at video games and be, content with the way things are. I want to be able to share my true, unfiltered thoughts and feelings on said things, so that way, I as a content creator can understand a lot better what it means to do this kind of thing. And besides, I've seen a lot of other content creators do the exact same thing, like in the middle of their videos, where they kind of have like a small little epiphany moment, but that was more or less probably a scripted thing, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, a big inspiration for this particular segment comes from Char-I-5's Everything Wrong with Sonic Generations, Sonic X Shadow Generations, where he made an entire, like a video, basically, disguised as an Everything Wrong With, but he, like, confronts a lot of stuff that happened in his past, and, you know, he tries to look forward to the future a bit more, and he vents, and he lets his frustrations out on his younger self. This isn't scripted. This is just me talking. And honestly speaking, it's really great if you made it this far, and you've been listening this whole time. I'm about to end college soon. I gotta move things, and it's just been a lot. And I just haven't had the chance to make a fully, like, made piece of content yet. I really haven't. And I do want to thank you for those that stuck around this far, because I gotta get back to talking about this. Again, it's one of my favorite games, purely because it's different than any other of the indie horror games I've played so far. They all follow a basic formula, but Hello Neighbor to me just stuck out to me first. It goes Hello Neighbor, and then Bendy, and then Baldy, and whatever the hell comes next. But, yeah. Hello Neighbor Hide and Seek is essentially a prequel to the first Hello Neighbor game, taking place right before Act 1. It shows the entire story of how the neighbor came to be who he is. He had a wife and 2 kids. I forgot what the wife's name was specifically, but I do know that the kids' names are Aaron and Maya. Aaron and Maya are the neighbor's 2 kids. Now, Maya, you're going to have to watch out for that name later. The neighbor's wife fucking dies in the car crash because, well, according to Hello Neighbor in one of these little mini sections here after you get caught in the first act, apparently they got into a crash with a pizza truck, and then the neighbor's wife dies while in the hospital, which, I mean, that is really sad and all, and Hide and Seek does a really good job of explaining what really happens without showing anything, you know? And then later on, we see that Aaron gets progressively more aggravated as it continues because he misses his mom. He doesn't want to keep, pretending like everything's alright when it's really not. Even though the neighbor is trying his hardest to make sure that, everything stays relatively the same as it has, since before his wife died. Now, eventually, at the end of the game, we finally realize the other person that died was buried promptly in the backyard. The person known as Maya. Maya, being the neighbor's daughter, was actually playing with Aaron, and they were playing pretty high up on the roof. Aaron got so aggravated that he ended up pushing his sister out of pure rage because of the fact that he wants his mother there, obviously. And then we end up finding out that, well, Maya dies. This is what sets in motion for Hello Neighbor to actually begin. And in the books, it's explained that the neighbor thinks that Aaron is some sort of bad omen, even before the death of his wife and daughter. It pretty much states that, the entire time, the neighbors always just thought that Aaron was always a bad luck charm, essentially, making things happen when they didn't need to. There's more evidence that stacks up in the books, as well as the animated series, where Aaron was always in a theme park that Mr. Neighbor built. Mr. Neighbor being an actual architect and everything that worked for a lot of different amusement parks, including his most recent one, the Golden Apple Amusement Park. And basically, everything that could have gone wrong, Aaron was always in. Proof of this is provided by pictures that happen in the books as well as in the animated series. Basically, just making it seem like Aaron really is an omen in all of this. The next games I'm going to talk about aren't really canon per se. I mean, one of them might be, but I don't really think they're canon in the sense where it's like, well, whatever. The first one is Hello Neighbor, not Hello Neighbor, Secret Neighbor. Secret Neighbor is an Among Us styled, detective game. Like, you gotta solve the things, you gotta get the key, you gotta get the key cards, and then the neighbor's one of you guys, so you gotta do a thing about that. You gotta hide the fact that you're the neighbor, and you can catch the kids and turn them into paper. I'm not even kidding. That's actually the way that it goes. You catch a kid, and you make sure that no one else really distracts you or temporarily knocks the kid out of your hands. And they just turn into paper. like in your very hands, you might actually be Jesus. I don't even know. The next one is Hello Engineer, and this one might be a little bit canon, but I don't really even know. It takes the whole, like, amusement park architect thing to its highest limits, because the neighbor ends up building machines, and you also have to build machines. And why do you do this? Nobody knows. I don't even know, and I'm the guy that's talking about it. But then there's the VR game, Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue, which is actually a decent enough adaptation of the cartoon, all things considered. The cartoon shows this group of kids right here. These kids ended up... yeah, none of this is getting cut. The kids in question being a part of the Secret Neighbor catalog of characters, which actually end up being characters all throughout the entire series. Like, no more just, oh, it's the player, it's the neighbor's wife, it's the neighbor's kids. It's actual characters now, actual world building as well. And especially because of Hello Neighbor 2, it made more room for more characters to appear. Including, surprisingly enough, in the animated series, the character Quentin, who is the main character of Hello Neighbor 2, by the way, is voiced by the Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. I don't know how they managed to get him, but they did. And honestly, I'm not even pissed about it whatsoever. I just think it's really cool that they got that. So then, you go to the end of the game for Hello Neighbor Search and Rescue, and you rescue the player. Now, I will say this. I know that the player's name is Nicky. Here's the thing, okay? My first names are Nicholas Michael, right? The first two names of this character are Nicholas Michael. The only thing that changes is the last name. His last name is Roth. I'm not telling you my last name. I'm not going to. I don't want to. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of it for Hello Neighbor for now. Until the third game eventually releases another alpha or just releases as a whole, I've got nothing else to say. I don't have anything else to say. But I actually do have this right here to say. The fan music for the game pisses me off and makes me happy at the same time. Okay, listen, the reason why I say this is because, right, Hello Neighbor has a very distinct catalog of fan-made music. The most popular ones being Hello and Goodbye from JT Music and Get Out from DA Games. One of my personal favorites is Hello Neighbor by Nate Wants to Battle, and also Hello and Goodbye by JT Music. I think because of the fact that there's so many different songs out there for each individual game, hearing Get Out just makes it seem more like, you know, DA Games kind of just looked at the game at face value, looked at some gameplay and said, yeah, this is a good thing to do. Now, I'm not knocking his ability as a musical artist. I'm really not. He's really good. But it just seems like Get Out is more like, it's the neighbor. The neighbor is scary. He has things in his basement. You shouldn't be here. Get out. Yeah. But, you know, that's just my personal opinion on it. And then there's some Hello Neighbor songs that kind of just piss me off because they're bad. I don't know. I really don't know. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. None of this has been cut out. All of this is pure, raw, unadulterated footage. Yeah. So if you want to see more content like this where I don't really cut anything and I just talk about everything like as is, you know, be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to put a comment down below seeing what you want me to talk about next. Yeah. You know, that's about it. Bye-bye.